Hey there, it's Lester Martin once again from Datavolo, your developer advocate out here. And I want to do another video version of one of the tutorials we just launched. So this one is building a custom Python processor, as you kind of see on the left there. And we're going to focus on a processor type like a transform, something that takes some data in a NiFi FlowFile and does something with it and sends it on. So where is that tutorial? Well, it's up there on the DevCenter, devcenter.datavolo.io. Of course, all the links are down there in the description. And if you look around there, you'll find Build a Python Transform Processor as promised. Here, I'm going to not necessarily leave these screens up all the time, but I think every once in a while they're worth taking a look at. So obviously, we say, hey, let's build this out, normal kind of objectives, prereqs and stuff. We assume you know your way around a NiFi canvas, or in our case, a Datavolo canvas. Should look very similar. And let's just talk about the use case we have specifically here. Well, we're going to use this all states vectors kind of a call from OpenSky. Why? Because, well, if anything else, it lets me anonymously use this with some usage limits. So let's just look at this call real quick. Here's the all states call. Create up a new window and paste that in there. Now this is going to make a quick check, and it's going to say, hey, tell me right now all the flights happening, and I just said worldwide. So there's a lot. There's probably 5 to 10 or maybe more thousands of flights in here. And I'm going to click on Pretty Print just so we can get a better look. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Should have done that already. So you can kind of see this data a little better. There we go. And if you look, what do we have? We have a JSON object. It's 2 fields up front, time and states properties there. Timestamp states. States is an array of what? Well, what's in each array item? Well, happens to just be another array itself. And the array actually only has, as you can see, just values. There's no details on where things come from and so on and so forth. So you got to expect, if we went back to the OpenSky network, that, here we go, he'll tell you what all those are. They're very positional oriented properties. So that kind of gives you an eyeball of what we're going to grab. I'll slide back over to the notes and say, okay, great. So what do we want to do? We want to take that and we want to use multi-lines, and we want to definitely, go ahead and add in the property names as we go along in our transform. But really what we want to do is we want to make sure this is going to work really good with the NiFi record processors. So let's make this really just a collection of objects that make some sense. Again, having all those properties is going to make a big difference. Nothing much more than that. We'll actually probably take a subset of these values and kind of set up for some future tutorials. All right, so what do we need to do all this? Well, we definitely need a NiFi canvas or a Datavolo canvas. So I got me one right here, tutorial recording. All the stuff is in the tutorial with links to help you find and create these things. And what I'm going to do is back in the tutorial, I kind of jump started. I said, look, why don't you grab this? Whoops, why don't we grab it differently? Why don't we save this to our local hard drive here, tutorial something something. And from there, let's go to NiFi and let's just add a processor group here. And we'll use that file we just downloaded. There we go. We added a new processor group. If we open it up, we'll see, okay, great. We got a little bit of a start here. We'll come back and see this in a minute. But basically, I wrote a invoke HTTP or use an invoke HTTP call to fetch that information, and then we just made sure it's marked with a MIME type of JSON. So we're going to build something that can consume that information. We'll even look at the data when we get a little closer. All right, so we got all that set up. And to set up our development environment, what we really just need to do is make sure we have Hatch installed. We have some documented instructions here, how to take your Python code and bundle it all up together into what we call a NAR file, if you're familiar with that. If not, it's just the way we package up custom components like processors, so good docs there. And ultimately, you want to do what it kind of says here. Once I get create a place to work at, I'm right here in this transform OpenSky state, and then we just want to say hatch new processors. Boom, there we go, created some folders. I'm going to navigate into the CD into source, processors, source, and I think it's processors again, yeah, LS. I guess a couple other things we had to do first before I should have done all that is, well, just stick with the instructions here. I'm going to tell you why don't you just, instead of walking through the docs on the hatch information, shows you how you can edit this and maintain. I'm just going to swap out the contents of the TOML file that you might see up there. Whoops, I tell you, it's no fun. CD there we go, ls cd to processors. I was already there. All right, so there's a TOML file. So I'm just going to vi the pi project TOML, and I'm just going to, I could have zeroed it all out, but I'm just going to delete lines by lines so you can see about what's in there. There's more in here that I'm going to paste in here, but we're going to keep it short, sweet, and simple. And we'll do an insert. We'll paste that content back in there. Well, there we go. I thought I had it on the network. And one thing you want to definitely do is go change these emails here, because, and my instructions tell you that in the tutorial. Otherwise, what's going to happen is later it's going to blow up and say, hey, that's not a valid email address. So I'm just going to put my work email. In case you want to message me, you'll have my work email right here. After Martin at Datavolo. We'll do the same thing. The other one, I'll just leave the name, your name for now, just to keep moving. Insert Martin at Datavolo. All right, so we got a quick file. We're not going to necessarily discuss every step here. You're welcome to take a good look at it. Look at the tutorial. We try to walk you through it, as well as the referenced doc page. All right. Well, what does that do for us now? I'm just gonna scan through the instructions here, then we're just gonna cut and paste the whole class. The tutorial will walk you through bits and pieces. I'll kind of make the high points here. The high points are, if you want to build a transform processor, you need to extend this FlowFile transform class. So here we are. We'll call our class transform open sky states. There is our FlowFile transform. And if you really want to get to the meat and potatoes, it's going to be down there in this transform function. We're going to be handed a flow file and a process context, and we're going to do something. Right now, obviously, and you first stub it out, it's just going to say, hey, let's just raise a flow file. We're done. Didn't do anything with it. So it would have been an empty flow file with success and all that kind of good stuff to get us started. The notes here are going to talk a little bit more. Again, that transform is the meat and potatoes here. Going to talk about the naming convention, very important. And it's going to reference this notion called the processor details that you see right up here. And what are they all about? Versioning, descriptions, things like that. They're going to show up. Tags, these are things that help the UI find the information later. So let's go ahead and next on past that. We jump into the transform a little bit deeper here, explain the primary relationships and stuff. And then really what we're doing is we're changing some JSON. So we're going to import some JSON stuff. We're going to load up some field maps to align what we saw in the OpenSky API docs. Your logic is going to be whatever your logic is. This is a specific problem, so swap out these elements as appropriate, and then we show you, hey, there we go. We can just go ahead and build a flow file, not just on that relationship called success, but what do you want the contents to be? So we did a little bit of manipulation here. Then we went ahead and just set in a separate step here a little bit more work on that specific problem. You're welcome to look at it. But what are we doing? We're taking the list of lists and making, remember, just one single list, and then we're just decorating it a little bit better and making it cleaner. So I encourage you to walk through all that for sure. But in absence of that, why don't you just make sure I'm in the right place. Transform CD to source. Processors, I believe, yep. And we want to put a class here. I think we're going to call it transform open sky states py. All right, so we got our class. And again, remember, you're welcome to, and I encourage you to walk these steps here. I'm just going to go ahead and jump us to the finish line here. Go ahead and insert mode, paste that. Again, go back and read that to see what the transform's doing for us. All right, so we got the class. What do we need to do next? We need to bundle it up. We need to package it. So let's do that. We can just do that right here. I believe it's just simply hatch build target nar. There we go. Instead of typing it, just cut and paste it. And if all goes well, it's going to tell you, hey, great, under this disk folder, we have a processor's nar file. That's awesome. That was the packaging, quick and easy. If you're doing this yourself, remember what I said about the email. If you didn't change the email and the TOML file, it's going to blow up on you. And the message will, if you look really close, it'll kind of say that. All right, let's go deploy it. Let's jump over to NiFi. We got this flow here. We already started. From here, we're going to go controller services, local extensions. We're just going to hit the old plus button, and we're going to go find that thing. So it's under Lester Labs, processors, dist, and there it is, processor star version 000. It said it checked it. It's all done. It's all through. And what we can do now is go back to our flow, and we can drag and drop a processor here called, if I type OpenSky, there it is, transform OpenSky states. Remember we said the class name is going to show up right here, so be mindful of that. All right, so we dropped it. We're going to plug it together, and then we'll run it all together. It's just one big relationship coming out of that funnel. You know, normally we wouldn't have a funnel here, and to be honest, since we didn't really, well, since you would normally just drag it straight there, I just did that for that template. Let's go ahead and just so we can see the results, let's do another anti-pattern here. Let's drag it to a funnel just to get it started on the successful relationship. And then we're going to just auto-terminate anything else that we're doing here. Auto-terminate the failures. We don't expect a failure. Now let's run this thing. We got it out here deployed. So we're going to run OpenSky just once. We just need a quick output there. So I'm going to look in that queue. Again, this is the basic invoke HTTP processor that says, hey, I went out and fetched it. There's no, I should have grabbed it a little further down where we switched the MIME type so you can see it in the JSON format. Okay, great. So we did that. That's data's there. If I want to see it, I'll just real quick do that. Start that thing. Make sure we agree that looks a little prettier here. And it will write, oh, maybe I went too fast. Oh, it's down here. List queue. Get another reason probably not to have that funnel in there. And we'll look at the view content. And there it is. Yep, scale. Might want to copy and paste that somewhere else to play with it. All right, so we're all ready to go. We're going to ready to do the transform. Let's just run it, kick it off. And I'd expect it to pop right through. It sure did. And let's just go see if the transformations made this data look a little bit cleaner, easier, better to process. And even as a human, you know, better to kind of take a look at it. Sure did. We have basically an array of objects, and those objects have fewer fields. We have code in there that you see in the tutorial that we only select certain ones. And property, the classic key value pairs, property and value, over and over and over. Again, there's several thousands of those in here. The good news is you did it. That's really what we were trying to do. Keep it simple. That's a great, we give you a really nice little simple way to package this thing up. Take your code, bring it in there and into Datavolo land and as a custom Python transformer. And I think that will get us all wrapped up. I appreciate your time. I hope you come and exercise the tutorial for yourself, and I hope you use that code as a stub for your own Python transform processor. We'll see you next time. Thanks.